Hello everyone, it's January 2015 and today I'd like to give a demonstration of the improved Alacrost map editor. So let's dive right in. I'll create a new map here. These units are in numbers of tiles and these are currently the minimum dimensions you can make a map. You can't select OK until you choose at least one tile set to use, so I'll choose these two and there we go. The red area in the map view here is where the borders of the map are. On the right you can see that there are several tile layers that have been pre-populated for us called ground, middle, and sky, and we have what's called a map context that's named base here. I'll explain a little about what map contexts are later. And here we have our two tile sets that we selected. If we look to the main menu, the file menu contains pretty much what we would expect. The edit menu has several options. Unfortunately, most of these are disabled because they simply aren't implemented at this time. The view menu allows us to select different overlays so that we can see to better understand what's actually in our map. And our tools are what we use to manipulate the map tiles. And you can see we have 8 tools here that are hotkeyed through, with the numbers 1 through 8. So let's go through each of these one at a time. The paint tool is pretty simple. You select a tile in the tile set and you can click. You can also drag and create, paint. That's what it sounds like. You can select multiple areas in the tile set and paint groups of tiles at a time, and the drag operation works here as well, but usually you don't get the effect that you want, so you usually don't drag when you're using the paint tool with several tiles at once. The swap tool will swap the position of one tile with another. It's a little difficult to see here just based on the tiles that I chose to use. The erase tool works very similar to the paint tool. I can click a tile and it disappears, or I can drag and hold the mouse. The inherit tool here is disabled because this map context that we're using is not an inheriting context. I'll explain what that means for a context to inherit at a later time, but for now just understand that the inherit tool works just like the erase tool. The select area tool allows me to select groups of tiles at a time. If I single click anywhere, the selection area goes away. I can also hit escape. I can hit Control A and it'll select all tiles at once. These options are in the tool menu here, but they're not on the toolbar. I can also hold down the Shift key and create custom selection area sizes, and as you can see, it doesn't need to be congruent here. This area is not connected to these. And if I hold down the Control key, then I can remove selections, so I can really get fancy with exactly how my tile area is selected. The fill tool works just like you would expect a fill tool on a paint program to use. You click somewhere and instead of painting a single color, it paints the selected tile you have here. The clear area tool works similar to the fill tool, except it will delete all of the tiles that you have selected. And the inherit area tool, again, this is disabled because this isn't an inheriting context, but it works similar to the clear area tool. So that's it for the basic coverage of the tools. Let's go ahead and open up an existing map. Now you can see here we've got 3 contexts in this map. Let's talk a little bit about the layer view, widget here. So I can double click these icons to toggle the visibility of the various layers here. I can double click the layer name to rename it, and same thing with this collisions property here. This determines whether this tile layer is factored into the collision grid that's in the back end of the map to determine if sprites collide with a certain position, so you won't have things like sprites walking on the faces of buildings and things like that. If I right click, there are several options to add a new layer. Clone a layer just creates a copy of the layer with all the same properties. If I try to delete a layer, a little confirmation will come up, and there's also the rename here. And if I want to reorganize my layers, I can just drag and drop the layers and reorganize them however I like. The context view here works exactly like the layer view in terms of right-click actions and reordering and things like that. The ID field is not editable, but it is visible, so you can determine when you want a context to inherit from another one, what context you'd like to choose. So you can see this interior context here inherits from context 1, which is the base context. What it means for a context to inherit from one another, it means that it grabs the tiles from the other context in the location you select to inherit. So if I use my inherit tool here and I'm going on the dirt layer and I draw, now I can reveal the tiles that are in the layer that's inheriting, and the inherit area tool here, I can select and get all of those tiles at once. So what a context really is it's a map within a map. You can have up to 32 of these on a single map, and the reason we have this feature, which is as far as I know unique to any map editor out there, is that we want to be able to transition between areas of a map seamlessly. For example, in many RPGs, you would walk inside a building, and then that would cause another map to load with different sprites, and there would be no sort of continuity between the outside and the inside of the house. You wouldn't see sprites going to and fro, and you would also have that loading time between the maps. But here, we can create a zone, not in this map, but through scripting, where as soon as a sprite enters it, it switches from one context to another. So that is map contexts. Next is the tile set widget here. We can select any rectangular section of tiles and use it in the paint tool as we saw earlier. You can see we have more tile sets here than we have room to display, so these arrows appear. If I right click, I can either add a new tile set, which brings up a dialog, and any tile set that's already been added is grayed out. But I can select 2 of these to add if I like, or I can remove this tile set, and this would only remove the current visible tile set here. And if I do this, then all of the tiles that come from this tile set on the map will be erased, and I won't be able to see this house anymore in this example. So I don't want to do that. There's also animations in a tile set. You can see here, if you look in the interior context, there's this clock. If you select the first frame in this animation, and you can see it's an animation because it's a very similar tile that's contiguous in the tile set, then in the game the clock will be animating. It will use all these frames. There's no animation support to view this in the editor currently, but that's something that will be coming in the future. Now let's take a look at our view menu. We have our tile grid, which pretty much does what you expect. You have a grid, so you can grid line, so you can see where each individual tile is. The missing tiles shows you locations on the map where there are no tiles displayed, and you might be confused and say, well, it's obvious because any area that's black, there's no tile. Well, not necessarily the case. Some tile sets actually have pure black tiles, so this helps us to better understand. And if this will only show the missing tiles with the current layer, so if we go to the middle layer, you can see that there's some slight change in the overlay here. And then the inheriting layer does the same thing as the missing layer, just shows us which tiles are being inherited in this map. So now let's take a look at some resize operations here. Let's see, go back to this context. Let's say I want to resize my map. There's a lot of empty space on the borders here, and I don't really need the map to be that large, so I can change the map dimensions here, and you can see exactly how much I will be changing this by. And the tiles will be always removed from the right and the bottom with this widget, or added. So here you can see that this resizes, and this operation takes place across all map contexts and all tile layers, so you stay consistent there. There's also the ability to insert and delete single or multiple rows and columns of tiles from anywhere in the map. So if I want to insert a column here, I can do so. Maybe I want some more distance between this house and the cliff that's nearly above it. I can add a few rows of tiles here, and so on and so forth. And then deleting works much the same way that you would expect. Oh, I meant to delete a column there. So let's see. Now let's talk about selection areas, because these actually change the behavior of the different tools, and so we'll go through them one at a time. So I have this selection area here, and if I select the paint tool and I want to paint, say, this cave entrance, you can see the preview of the paint. If I move it close to the selection area, you won't see the tiles inside, and sure enough, if I paint, it only paints part of it. The way this works is that the selection area kind of works as a virtual boundary, so that you don't accidentally, you know, if I'm doing a lot of editing around this house and I don't want the house actor to accidentally change any of the tiles of the house, I can provide a selection area around here to be safe. And if my cursor moves inside, then you can see that the cave can be placed inside the selection area. So with the swap tool, this allows me to move groups of tiles at a time. So let's see here. So let's say I want to move this grass. If I select in here and then move a couple over, then I move all of the tiles in this, whichever direction I move the cursor. The erase tool prevents me from accidentally erasing tiles. So if I start erasing and I'm holding down the mouse outside here and I go in the selection area, you can see I'm still holding down the mouse, but these tiles aren't selected. And likewise, if I start inside the selection area and start dragging outside, it won't erase the tiles outside. And the inherit tool works the same way here. The fill tool will cause any tiles within the selection area to be filled. So let's say I want to use this different color sand here. Oops. There we go. So now I've filled this area with this specific tile, and I can do this with any tile. The clear tool, when it works with the selection layer, will clear those tiles. So if I fill this up, and let's say I want to add some area inside of here in this blank space I've added, but I don't want it to be in this tree. There we go. And I use this tool, you see that it doesn't fill the area inside the tree unless I actually click inside of it. And then the inherit area tool works the same as the clear area tool when we're using that. So that should about wrap it up, I believe. There's been a lot of great changes with this. Map editing is much easier now than it used to be. So I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.